decided to gather as many experts as possible. So these are experts from the French Ministry for the French Museum, the Species Commission of the IUCN French Committee, and people from this partner organization, so either scientists or specialists from the organization. And last point, we had the chance at the start of the project to have the technical support of the IUCN Species Program. So they didn't have a lot of time to help us, but they give us a lot of advice and give us a hand to start the project. And it was very useful to have the advice from a Species Program in Gland and from the Red List unit in Cambridge, especially to use properly the methodology. It takes some time to get used to, and it's the workshop you talked about before helped us a lot to start the project. So now fundraising. At the start of the project we had no money, and we needed funds to organize the workshop, so to gather the experts, to do the publication, and to pay the salary of the person that were about to work on the project. So these took us a lot of time at the beginning of the project. We meet many organizations, and we tried to convince that our project was a great project, that it will help to save species in France, and in the end I must say that it was not that difficult to find money, because everyone likes species, everyone wants species to be saved, and we managed to have money from different organizations. So the first one was the French Ministry of Ecology, because they were very interested in the project, and very soon they understand that it was important for them to support the project, even with financial support. We also have a foundation dedicated to nature in France, Fondation Nature et Découverte, that give us money for the project, and different companies, like big companies that are French or Italian companies, that decided to help us support the project. So this took us quite a lot of time to gather this partner, but now we have a very good basis to work, because all of them they work with us since 4 years now, and each year they continue supporting the project, which is very good for us, because we can continue working for the coming years with them. And my last point, is on how we manage to influence national conservation strategies and policies. So at the start of the project, and in fact before we started the project, we wanted to be sure that the results that we were going to produce would influence the strategies in France. So we had many meetings in the French Ministry of Ecology and Sustainable Development, the ministries that make the policies in France on nature and species. And we had many meetings, and we talked to them about the global red list of endangered species. We explained them what was the IUCN, why the global red list was important, how the global red list influenced the policy at the global scale, and we tried to convince them that the national project would help the government to guide the policies on nature. And because there is a lot of credibility attached to the global red list, also because we work with the Museum of Natural History, which is an advisory body of the government soon became quite convinced that this project was a very good thing for France. And because, as I told you before, France didn't have any red list before. So in the end, the French government, the Ministry of Ecology, they decided that the French red list of endangered species would be the scientific tool that will guide the policies in France. And the situation now in France is that the red list is used as a scientific tool officially. It's recognized officially for example, these are only some examples, but for the national list of protected species. So when the government has to revise the list of species that are protected by the law, this revision is done on the basis of the national red list. It's also used for the national plans of actions on priority species. So these are plans decided by the government on the species that are the more in need of protection, and there are money with these plans. So the species are identified according to the national red list. And the red list is also used to help guide the management of protected area, and to help guide the management of connectivity between protected areas, which is a great deal in France now, because we have a scheme we are trying to build a network of protected areas. And this is done on the basis of the red list. So just before finishing, what we have done since 2007, we have evaluated all the vertebrates in France. So you can see. We have started the work on invertebrates with the freshwater crustaceans and the butterflies. We have also started to work on plants. We have evaluated the orchids in France. There are 150 species of orchids in France. And we have also started the work in overseas territories with the fauna in La Réunion. We have evaluated 8 groups of fauna in La Réunion. All the vascular plants in La Réunion, which are 800 species of plants. And we have started in Guadeloupe with birds in Guadeloupe. These are the last results published in this year. And now the project is underway. We are especially continuing in invertebrates, marine species, and overseas territories. These are the program for us in the coming years. So many thanks for your attention.
Okay, so now we want to open up the floor to all of you. Can you hear me if I don't use the microphone? I feel restricted behind the podium. We have a couple of microphones, so if anybody wants to, first we welcome you to share your experiences, whether that's your experiences with the red list that you've already produced, or if things are underway and you have met with particular challenges or you have particular questions. Please feel free to try not to go on too long because there's a lot of people in the room and we have about an hour left, an hour and 10 minutes left. That's right. Thank you. So if anybody wants to share your experiences, and then we'll open the floor to questions and try to cover some of the questions that Jonathan mentioned earlier. But first I just welcome anyone to ask any questions or share your experiences. And feel free to speak in Spanish or French as well, so any of the official languages. If you, I'll start here.
I have a question on French. How about the data for your assessment? Is the for your committee to get or submit by expert? The data for assessment, where it came from?
They come from our partner organization. So the Natural Museum of History, a lot of data, and our partners, they are all partners that gather data. For example, the BirdLife France, the LPO, they have all the data on birds in France. So if you work with them, you can use the best data available in France on birds.
Okay.
For plants, we have a federation of botanical conservatories, and they have the mission to gather plants data in France. They have a mission from the French government.
And who made assessment?
So
who made assessment? You have an expert made assessment, or you have a group?
It's exactly like the global red list. So we have a expert meeting, expert workshops. The experts made their assessments, and we have 2 people that you call evaluators, the people that reviewers that help, that know the mythology. One from the Museum of History and one from the French committee that lead the workshop and that help the experts do the assessment.
Okay. And so far, how many plant species made assessment? The plant.
Yes.
How many species?
800 in La Réunion Island and 150 orchids in France, continental France. And we are going to publish next month the results for 1,000 plant species in continental France.
And finally, your target, how many species of the plant you have to make assessment?
There are 5,000 plant species in France, continental only. And I don't know if you add French Polynesia, New Caledonia, I don't know the number. But
thank you.
There was a question here first. If you don't need to use the mic, feel free
to. I'm Tariq Otal from the Royal Botanic Garden in Jordan, and I met you, Rebecca, back in about a year and a half ago. We had Trainer of Trainers program. I just wanted to give everybody so far what we have done from our experiences, and we will be having also a session, a pavilion session with the IUCN ROA on the 10th of September at between 12 and 1. But I just wanted to give you a quick summary of what's going on. What we found out from we're doing a red list. We're hoping to do a red list on the plant species in Jordan, which we have about 2,500, a little bit more than 2,500 species in Jordan. And what we found out, of course, is that we have a lot of data deficiency in Jordan. So what we did is it took us about 1 year to do the gap analysis to find out what data we have and what data we don't have. And there is some good news. A lot of it, over 1,000 of the data is desktop data. So what we're doing now is we're collecting data not just from Jordan and from the region, from actually around the world. We're going around to different areas, different botanic gardens, different institutions, as far as the United States also. We've been to Edinburgh, the Botanic Gardens in Edinburgh, the Kew Gardens. We've been all over. We're going to Beirut. We're going to different areas. We're going also, I think, in areas also in Germany also. So right now, the biggest challenge is trying to get this data and collecting this data so we can start analyzing it. So we decided to do the red data book. Now we decided to do the red data book in different volumes. So we're doing volume 1 for a little bit over 1,000 species, and then we're doing the second volume. So that's what we're doing so far. And thank you for the training, of course. We did, and it helped a lot. Thanks.
Actually, to follow up on that, Caroline Pollock, who's sitting right over here, and I went to Jordan, and we held a really fascinating workshop that brought together people from countries all over the region. So there were at least a couple of people from, I think it was 7 or 8 countries?
11 countries.
11 countries in total. And we had a 4-day training workshop. And one of the days, we spent the entire afternoon discussing how to move forward. So first, we discussed the Red List methodology and went over case studies and learned the system. And then everyone from these different countries talked about how to move forward, what steps need to be taken, what challenges were in the way, and how to take those next steps. And it was really, really exciting to bring everyone together and facilitate cooperation between the countries. I hope that that's something that really carried on into the future, because I think that personally is a good model for other countries to follow, because really, especially when you're doing national red lists, well, particularly using the IUCN methodology, you have to look at data from outside your region to determine what the extinction risk for your species in your country might be. So that's a really good way to start that whole communication process. We had a question here. Yeah.
Klaus Riede from Germany. More than a question, I want to share a little bit the experience I have. First, congratulations. I think that's National Red List website. When I discovered it about a year ago, it was really an eye-opener, because we in Germany, we do have national red lists, a high quantity of national red lists, not only on a national level, but also on a federal state level. And if you add that up, it would be a huge amount of data, which, as you have shown on your map, hasn't entered into this website yet. Now, some comments about the training. The problem I see with training, and which we have in Germany, for example, is that we are red listing really strange organisms like slime molds, lichens, several families of beetles. And there is maybe only 1 or 2 experts for each of these groups, which probably won't attend your workshops. Probably they don't even speak English. Some of them are quite old. There's this so-called taxonomy impediment. So I wonder, one training component, of course, is red listing, but the other training component which would be needed would be the taxonomy. And that's certainly out of reach of IUCN. We should do that at the universities, at the museums. So I wonder if it wouldn't be wise to be a little bit more sloppy, or to have a little bit of fuzzy approach and say, okay, if there is a national red list like ours, which claims that a species is probably extinct for Germany, and in Germany it's ausgestorben or verschollen, so it says extinct or lost, whatever that is. That's not the same as your category, but it's quite close. So why not have a fuzzy set of similar categories like extinct or probably extinct, and then endangered, sort of summarizing the vulnerable and the CR and so on, and then make a quick and dirty approach and enter all these other data sets which are still missing, which are without bothering that there are some slight differences. And that maybe would solve the financial problem also a little bit, because they are. And finally, I would say we have forgotten about one important initiative and one important donor, and that is Europe. And we have a European red list. So we have a red listing on a higher level still than the national level. So how does that go into your website? And also, of course, Europe could be an important possible donor. So that's what I wanted to say for the moment.
Just to address those points, I think the taxonomy issue, can you hear me? I think the taxonomy issue is really important. I think if we were to classify taxonomists, they'd probably be critically endangered.
Yeah.
Because this is not just a problem at the national level, this is a problem at the global level. It's a problem for science in general, I think, because you can't, I mean, there's so many species that are as yet undescribed. There's so much uncertainty in taxonomy that needs to be resolved. So this is something that goes much beyond red listing. This is a really big issue. And it's something that we just have to deal with. Ideally, obviously, we'd be getting more taxonomists, younger taxonomists coming in that are going to be picking up the place where these existing taxonomists move off. But when it comes to training, one of the reasons that we want to get more red listers based around the world is so that we can address particularly the language gaps. One of the people that we have in the red list unit is actually German. She speaks German. She could give training in German. We have people that can give training in French, Spanish. We don't have people that can give training in Arabic. We don't have people that can give training in Russian or Chinese. You know, there's a lot of languages and that we need to expand to. So this is one of the benefits of really building this network. For the regional red list, so that there is a European red list. It's managed through the IUCN red list unit. And it's actually integrated into the IUCN red list website. So one thing that you also mentioned before I get to that is the difficulty of assessing species like slime molds and lichens and invertebrates. For the European red list, they included saprophilic beetles, were recently assessed and published. There are, in Sweden, they've assessed all of the lichen. We have just one mushroom on the red list, well, we have just one fungus on the global red list, so there are huge gaps. But there are a couple of examples where they've done it, well, Sweden in particular has lots of these more rare groups that they have assessed. And Europe in particular also has a lot of experience with that. But this is, again, an issue at the national and the global level, is how to assess some of these less well-known groups. For the European Red List, that is incorporated onto the Red List website. So you can find all of the data on the Red List website for the European Red List. And bringing together all of the experts to do the Red List at the European level also helped build up the momentum at the national level. A lot of those countries already had national Red List processes underway. For the European Red List, one thing to note is that it makes sense to do a regional Red List for Europe because there's political power through the EC. So that's, we've talked about, should we do a regional red list for Latin America? Should we do a regional red list for other larger regions? And you certainly could, but the benefit of doing a red list in a region that has some sort of political clout is that then you can implement, as John Paul mentioned earlier, you can implement those strategies and those policies that will then lead to biodiversity conservation.
Hello, I'm Diego Diaz from Venezuela, Vitalis, an NGO, and I have a comment and a question for John Paul. The comment is congratulations to the three of you for what you have done as a member of the science world, a professor at the university. I use a lot this kind of tool with my students, and I appreciate the work that you have done. And regarding the questions, it's actually more a curiosity thing. I would like to know a little more about the Wiki 8 or something that you mentioned, and how you are expecting the scientific sector will be participating in this.
Thank you. There's a group of scientists that already are part of the editorial board of the wiki. So we have by taxonomic group people who have the responsibility to motivate others in their taxonomic group. So invite scientists that they know to contribute to it, and also to oversee the quality of the data. So we have a few people who have central roles in this wiki, but hopefully there will be many others who then become motivated. And what we're asking people to do is to take it species by species. So what the actual release of the wiki is going to be in November of this year.